So, welcome to Greater Life, Greater Impact, everybody. It's nice to see you all jumping on here. I love hanging out with you guys every week, every Tuesday. We have new faces that jump on every week. And so that's been kind of fun to get to know you guys. If you're new to these classes, you can find the replays over on my YouTube channel, which is Great Life, Greater Impact. We've changed our name, so it's going to be some practice to remember to say that. Today is episode 41. We've been talking this year all about sovereignty, spiritual sovereignty, and we've had some really good discussions. We've experienced some healing around spirituality and spiritual sovereignty, transformation, spiritual awakening, and self-awareness, getting to know the real you, the authentic you on a deeper level. So that's been super fun. Today, usually the night before we have these classes, I'm impressed upon, or I'm given the specific topic that I feel guided to go in, and I have got nothing. Nothing came last night, and all day I was pondering and praying and thinking. This morning I got up and did some meditation, and just really went deep inside and was like, any moment now would be nice to be able to know what we're talking about, and still nothing came. And then a few minutes ago, I felt to just do a review. I felt to look over some of the topics that we've talked about as they relate to spirituality, self-awareness, and spiritual sovereignty. And so I think what we'll do is I want to do a little bit of a recap. I want to do a review of some of those topics. If you feel so impressed on any of the topics that stand out for you today, you are more than welcome to scroll through the previous videos that we've done over this past year and dive a little bit deeper. The other thing that I want to do today is I want to introduce to you guys the topic for this coming year, 2024. I'm not going to reveal that till midway through. That means you have to stay on till the end of class. But I do want to reveal what we're going to be talking about going deeper. So if you've noticed, there has been kind of a progression of topics as we've worked. In 2020, we talked about healing, doing your inner work, developing self-awareness, going in and getting centered, and processing emotions and those kinds of beliefs and emotions. We did that in 2020. 2021 was a year of abundance. And so we talked the whole year about manifesting abundance and learning how to create according to the laws of the universe and the laws of heaven. And that was a fun topic. Then the next year was 2022. We talked all about spiritual awakening, how to awaken the inner aspects of our soul and our being. And that was a fun topic and amazing. We learned amazing things through that year. Then this past year has been all about spirituality and spiritual sovereignty. And some of the things that you guys have brought to the table in regards to your own experiences has been enlightening for me. And so I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate those who are willing to participate and share your thoughts and feelings. Please feel free. You're welcome to unmute your cameras and your mics and or type something into the chat. Karen says, I didn't know about you in 2021. I really need to break out lack. So Karen, if you want to catch the replays of those from 2021 and 2020, you're welcome to go over to my website, greatlifegreaterimpact.com. And if you subscribe and become a member, we are in the process. It's taking a lot of time, but we're in the process of loading those videos from those replays into the members area. And you can subscribe and get access to all of the previous videos that we've done over the past years. Okay. So today, I want you to sit in meditation. I want you to get still. I'm going to have you just get into center. So I would love for you to just focus on your breath for a minute. and become aware of your body. Let's get into a learning state here for a minute as we do some review and pondering on spiritual sovereignty and what that means and why that's important, especially as we use that as a segue or a gateway into this next year. But I want you to just kind of slow your breath down, get into your body. There's something really profound that happens when you become aware of your physical body, when you become aware of the breath, when you become aware of your thoughts, when you become aware of those things, you really do tap into deeper levels of your being, but you also tap into and access divinity. You access divine intelligence. You access the mind and will of God. So I'm really just going to have you just kind of breathe in, breathe out, follow that breath. On the exhale, drop your shoulders. Slow it down. We want to go into a slow energy so that your mind and your body can be quickened. It's such an irony, isn't it? If you want to experience a quickening or a transfiguration or a transcendent experience, you have to slow down and go into the stillness. So I want you to breathe in, breathe out, drop your shoulders. On the exhale, as you're dropping your shoulders, drop your awareness down to the base of the spine. Breathing in, breathing out, letting go. So I'm going to invite you to just go within. Think about your midline. Think about a center channel going from the top of your head to the base of the spine. And I want you to focus on that center midline of your body. When you breathe in, I want you to pretend that you're breathing in large amounts of liquid light and send that light into every cell. Breathe it into your bones. So we're going to breathe deeply on the inhale, taking in all this light and knowledge and information. Breathe that into your bones. Think about the centers of your bones on the inhale. Think about the center of your body, that center channel on the inhale. On the exhale, I want you to think about release. You can use these words in your mind if it helps, but think about release, soften, surrender, empty. You want to empty your body of all the gunk that's in there, that's weighing you down, that's holding you back and keeping you stuck. Take some big, deep breaths, breathing deep into your muscles and your cells now. On the exhale, drop your shoulders a little bit more. Let's go into the parts of your body that are holding tension. So wherever you store tension in your body is where you have a tendency to store data. It's like data sitting on your hard drive that's taking up space, that's gunking up the flow. So if you are like a water hose and water needs to flow through you, translate that into a spiritual being. If your physical material body is like a water hose and spirit energy needs to flow through you, it can't if there's mud gunking up the channel. So if there's a lot of mud and debris in the garden hose, there's not going to be very much flow. There still might be some, but not much. It's not going to be a clear channel which the water can flow through. So our bodies are similar to that garden hose. If we want to experience the flow of spirit and spirituality and deeper levels of you, accessing the divine within, we have to clear out the gunk that's gunking up your channel. So a lot of that comes in the form of crappy beliefs that you have about yourself, and unwillingness to tap into your higher self comes in the form of emotions and thoughts. If your mind is constantly on and thoughts are constantly trying to analyze everything or make sense of everything, it's really difficult to ungunk the channel. So we have to drop out of our brain and into the body. So I want you to drop down out of your head and go to the base of your spine. If you want to, you can think of the entire midline, the entire center channel, or you can just put your focus at the base of the spine. So the base of the spine is a connecting point to your higher self. It's a portal. It actually is a place where you can connect to higher self, the aspects of your higher self. You can also get there through the heart, but for today, I want you to go deep into your body. Get into your bones, get into your hips, get into your legs, sink down through the legs and all the way under your feet and into the floor, and breathe. Breathe deep into that space. As you breathe in, I want you to pretend that you're taking in massive amounts of liquid light, filling your body, your mind, your cells with light. Fill it up. Send the light to where it's needed. As you breathe, I would love for you to just kind of move your body around a little bit and notice, where is there tension? Is there stiffness anywhere? Is there pain anywhere? Is there tension? So we're going to look for those pockets of tension, because that's where you're storing a narrative that maybe you don't want to look at. Maybe you're unwilling to look at something buried or burrowed deep within you. We're going to let go today. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Drop your shoulders a little bit on the exhale and see if you can relax a little bit more. Let's see if we can find any tension, maybe that you're storing that you didn't know was there. So let's go roll your shoulders up, back, and down and see if you can open up some more space and create a greater, deeper range of motion. Let's see if we can create more range of motion. You can also roll your head around on the top of your shoulders and feel if there's any tension or crackling or tightness. That tightness is telling you something. Your body is saying, hey, there is a narrative here that you're not willing to look at, that you haven't resolved yet. And so you're storing it in the body as in the form of constriction, restriction. So I want you to think about when you store gunk in the body. Usually it's heavy, weighed down, crappy beliefs and emotions, maybe heavy, dense emotions that don't feel good. When you have emotions in your body that don't feel good, that means there's a disconnect between you and your higher self, or you and God. There's a disconnect going on. Your body's trying to get your attention. It's telling you, hey, everywhere inside the body where there's tight muscles and restriction and constriction, and the energy is pulling in on itself, constricting, that's where you've fallen out of alignment with love. And there's usually a story to it. So if it shows up in your face, that's about identity. If it shows up in your throat, that's about speaking your truth and free will. If it shows up in your heart, in your chest, in your arms, in your shoulders, that has to do with love and burdens. If it shows up in your gut, that has to do with your personal power. So notice, where are you noticing the tension, the tightness, the restriction or constriction? Where are you resisting, relaxing? If it shows up in the lower gut, it has to do with family and emotions and creation. What are you here to create? And are you feeling stuck in that? If it shows up in the hips and the base of the spine and down the legs, that has to do with safety and stability and security and feeling grounded and anchored in this world. So notice what you notice. Let's start at the top of the head with a portion of your awareness at the base of the spine. I really would love for you to stay at the base of the spine so we can keep that connection. So maybe for this exercise, let's just put an imaginary nose at the base of your spine and breathe into that so that you stay out of your brain and you drop down into your body all the way into every cell. We're going to put awareness inside every cell of our bodies. But first, let's go to the base of the spine and connect to your higher self, to divine intelligence. Just put your attention there. I've had people say to me, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know how to put my attention at the base of my spine. Please don't overthink it. If you're overthinking it, you're up in your head. So I want you to drop down out of your brain and just put your awareness and your thought in the base of the spine. Think about your tailbone. Think about a giant nose at the base of the spine. Breathe into that. On the exhale, let's just soften the muscles that are holding your eyes in. Think about those muscles, and can you just soften on the breath out? Can you soften and release and surrender? Again, what we're doing is we're centering you, putting you into a learning state so that you can access divine, infinite intelligence within you. Let's go down through the face, behind your eyes, behind your nose, down through your throat. Can you relax your throat muscles, the swallowing muscles, and the root of your tongue? Could you just relax those muscles? Breathe in, breathe out, drop your shoulders, relax. Roll your head around again on the top of your shoulders and see if you have a greater range of motion. See if you can relax a little bit more and open up some space. So stretching out will open up space. Another thing that will open up space for you so that you become a clear channel, stretch out your face muscles. So everybody just smile really big. Heidi says, today I feel really good. I don't feel any tension. Is that okay? No. Find some tension. No, I'm teasing. If you feel good and you're relaxed, that's an awesome, like, could you ask for anything better than that? You don't need tension. So thanks for sharing that. All right, everybody smile really, really big as you can. Open your mouth big and wide. Smile, show your teeth. You should feel some tightness in the neck. We're going to activate the vagus nerve right here. So smile really big, show your teeth. Raise your eyebrows really, really high. Pull all the muscles back towards your ears and then take a selfie. Lisa's laughing. Do you notice that when you put a smile on your face, you actually do feel better? There's joy that starts flowing through your body. So do that. Karen says, I saw black gunk in the gut. Okay, we're going to get to that in just a minute. Breathe in, breathe out, let go. Drop your shoulders. Roll your head again around on the top of your shoulders and see if there's more range of motion. Good. Keep going. Keep going. Keep breathing. Keep softening. Let's go down to the shoulders. Let's drop your shoulders on the exhale. Breathing in, breathing out, letting go. And then going down behind your heart. Down. Drop your awareness down. Allow your higher self to be called in to every cell in your body, every muscle, every bone, every particle of matter is being infused with your higher self now. Just breathe it in with the inhale, and on the exhale, releasing and letting go. So Karen, if you saw black gunk in your gut, take your thumb like this, press down on the upper stomach, just below the sternum, just press down on your belly. And on the exhale, breathe out, drop your shoulders, let go. Woo! You can feel that. Letting go of all that tension that shows up in the gut. And let your gut just surrender. Nick says, I can feel my cells opened and full of light. Awesome. We haven't even gotten to that point yet. So good job. You're right on it. Okay, dropping down, 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 deep into the hips. Now, I want you to think about your center midline again, now being this channel inside of your center. And just like Nick said, he can feel this opening. I would love for you to just picture in your mind so that it can happen in your body. Picture in your mind your cells and your center opening. So instead of it just being a beam of light, now it is a giant ball of light, like you stepped into the center of the sun and the sun stepped into the center of you. So breathe into that. Breathing in, breathing out, letting go. Again, if there's tension in your back, you can stretch even a little bit. The more you get centered, the more that you connect. See if you can stretch out and breathe into that spot. So if I had a knot here in my back, I would stretch that out. I'm going to breathe into that spot. And I'm going to expand on the exhale. Good. Wow. Okay. There's a lot of expanding happening. That's awesome. With your awareness at the base of the spine now, dropping down deep into your body, expanding out with the breath. Just picture yourself as if you are literally like the sun, like millions of tendrils of light going out from your center. Take up more space in front of you, behind you, above you, below you. Fill up the room. Allow your essence, your energy to touch the ceiling and the walls and the floor and the corners. And when you've gotten to that point, notice that it can't be contained. Your essence can't be contained by walls and floors. It goes out into the universe. And as you go out into the universe, you realize that you are connecting with God's light that is everywhere. So feel that integration, feel that oneness, feel yourself integrating with the light of God the presence of God that's everywhere. Your presence becomes God's presence. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to create an open, empty channel for learning so that you can receive intuition as we go through these points and principles of sovereignty and as we review for this year. Okay, so what I would love for you to do is continue with that expansive feeling. Feel yourself getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, what I would love for you to do is pretend, you're going to have to put on your pretend muscles, but pretend that you can take all of the 5 physical senses out of your body and you're going to just put them in a box, hovering up in the corner above you. Just set them in a box. So your sight, your smell, your taste, your touch, your hearing, all the senses, take them out of this channel so that you just become a clear, clean, empty vessel. We call this hovering our senses. Breathe into your body. You're going to invite now the senses of God to flow in. Inviting the senses of God to flow in from the top of your head to the base of the spine. Let God come into your body and take up space in there and occupy space in there. What does it feel like to have God look through the eye holes of your eyeballs? What does it feel like to speak with the voice of God? What does it feel like to see, to hear, to taste, to touch, to sense? I mean, our physical bodies really are just, I can't think of the word. They're a way for us to interface with the material aspects of this dimension. This is a 3D dimension. So our bodies are an interface. So could you allow God into that space, into your channel, your vessel, and whatever God looks like for you? It could be the Divine Mother. It could be Jesus. It could be Buddha. It could be whoever. It could be God the Father, God the Mother. It doesn't matter. Just bring that into the indwelling of your physical body and allow the God essence to be the five senses now. What does it feel like when God touches, tastes, smells, sees, hears through your body? What does that feel like? What does it feel like to have God's thoughts running across your mind? What does that feel like? Breathing in, breathing out, expanding out on the exhale. So on the exhale, push that light out a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. If you're having a hard time letting go of some of that tension, just keep breathing into that space, stretch it out, move around a little bit, see if there's something you can do to breathe into that spot and allow it to surrender and soften. Again, we're putting you into a state of learning. It's difficult to learn and perceive and flow with God's presence if you're tense and tight. So letting go of all that tension and tightness. Ask your body, what do you need? Does it need to be heard or seen? Do you need to talk through something? Is there something specific coming up that's bothering you in your life? Breathing in, breathing out. Okay, so now you should be centered. You should be expanded. You should feel a more sense of oneness and unity with the divine. So now we're ready to learn. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to screen share. We're going to cover the 12 basic principles of spiritual sovereignty that we've talked about this entire year. If any of the points and principles that I talk about, and as we go over these, if any of them are triggering to you, or if you just feel a little like it's not, there's not a connect there, or you're not resonating yet there, or there's some work to be done there, then you can go back to my YouTube channel and just watch some of those past videos that address these principles and go a little bit deeper. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do a share screen. Whoops, just a second. Going to go to, this is the handout. Those of you who are members on my website, Great Life, Greater Impact, you probably have access to this handout. It's called The Attributes of Sovereignty and Personal Power. Attribute number 1, the person has no agenda. Sovereign beings do not put their own agenda onto others, nor do they allow the agenda of others to manipulate them. They seek to understand their own mission and purpose in life and drive towards it fearlessly, unapologetically. You know, many of us have this to varying different degrees and levels. Maybe we're not all quite there yet. Don't beat yourself up, but just notice. Just notice where you're at. Number 2, sovereign beings know how to yoke to the divine. Be yoked to the God family. Sovereign beings know deeply and profoundly their connection to deity. What we did today, which was hovering your senses and then bringing in that indwelling of God into your being and into your body, helps with that. It helps you to be more yoked. There's a high level of trust as well as action, acting in alignment with what you receive, even when it doesn't make sense and even when it terrifies the hell out of you. This yoking to God, having that indwelling within your body, what we did today. And if you can operate from that place and that space long-term throughout the day, throughout the weeks and months and years, it will change your life. This yoking reduces and in many cases eliminates the need to suffer. Sovereign beings don't go to outside sources to have their needs met. Their needs are met directly by those who walk in the highest light of God, even the gods themselves. My shepherd there's a typo there. Will my want supply? Jehovah is his name. Number 3, don't cling. Sovereign beings don't cling to things or to people unhealthily. They are not emotionally, mentally, physically attached to anything in a needy way. There's a difference. Attachments are not necessary to one who can stand in their own autonomy and meet their own individual needs through their relationship with God. They don't experience loss, only learning. They do not play the role of the victim. They do not run to others looking for advice, seeking for love, and pining or longing for connection. However, so this is my disclaimer here. They are open to receiving love and receiving advice when it comes and when it happens. And it's okay to connect with others in that way, but it's not coming from a needy place. Healthy connections happen only after they have learned how to fill their own inner well and satisfy their own inner longings. Then and only then are they capable of forming healthy connections with others. Okay, number 4. Sovereign beings operate in a place of neutrality. Sovereign beings are neutral. They aren't in a hurry. They move forward at their own pace, and they don't freak out about the timelines or potential threats, even death and loss. They have mastered the art of neutrality. Neutrality only happens when a person walks in sovereignty, carrying an eternal, infinite perspective in their hearts and minds. They recognize that there is no threat to an infinite being, and so they can walk through the minefield of life in a state of grace and peace. It is what it is, and I'm okay. Neutrality is the foundation that allows us to move back into the energy of love and peace and forgiveness and gratitude, and the ascended state. They learn that they are able to more and more through time and practice, that they can dwell in that place of peace regardless of what's happening in their external world. They know that their troubles in life ultimately have nothing to do with who they are. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter. They're able to maintain neutrality when challenges come. And if they fall out of neutrality, they know the way back. This is sovereignty. Sovereign beings just be. What they do is a byproduct of who they be. But the focus is on the beingness, not the doing. They operate frequently in the stillness of the I am. Emergencies rarely rattle them. And when emergencies arise, their I am guides them through it as they find their way back into peace again. Principle number 5. Actually, that was the first 4: having no agenda, being yoked to the divine, the God family, not clinging, and operating in neutrality. Does anyone have comments or questions or things that they would like to share in regards to how have you experienced these on a deeper level? I'm going to stop screen share. How have you experienced these 4 things on a deeper level this year as we've worked on our sovereignty? Does anyone have thoughts? Anyone want to share personal experiences in regards to those 4 principles? I'll give you a minute to think. I know it's hard to put you on the spot. Sometimes you don't know what to think, but if you have had experiences with any of these throughout this year, I would love to hear. All right. I'm going to give you just a few more minutes. And even if you don't share, feel free to jot some of those things down on a piece of paper or in your journals so that you can process and get a gauge of self-awareness. Where are you at? Where could you do better in your development?
I'd like to share a little something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so all 4 of those principles resonate with me deeply. I found that it doesn't matter how crazy the chaos around or how hot the fires we're called to walk through, where we find ourselves in from time to time, that when we do walk in sovereignty, unapologetically, fearlessly, without trepidation or fear of what other people think about us or perceive us to be or do, and we just are who we are through it all, that we have this power within us that allows us to be the eye in the middle of the storm. And so I think about like Jesus when he was with his disciples and they were all on the boat and they were tripping out. And here is the Savior sleeping through the storm in the boat. And they're all freaking out. And here are these people that have seen miracles and they're with the Creator. And they're freaking out and it's okay. But what he said to them, it got my attention. He said, have I been with you so long, right, that you don't recognize who I am and who you are, right? And that power is within us now. That he had to calm the raging storm that was all around them, and all he did was say, "Be still." And so I found in my life that I too can command those fires or those storms to be still and cease. And as I do so and gain control of my emotions and my thoughts and my mind, um, those fires and storms, no matter how chaotic or hot, they seem to affect me less and less. So that's what I've been learning this year.
Yeah, that's profound. Thank you, Nick, for sharing that. It made me think about, sometimes when you start doing introspective work, a lot of us go through the storms. A lot of us have experienced chaos in our lives where things are just like swirling. The storm is swirling around, and it's easy to get sucked out into the vortex of the storm and cycle and spin. But it's true that when you go within and you go into the center, there's nothing but peace and stillness and calm in there. And you can move around with the storm, but not have to be sucked out into the actual chaos of it all. So I love that. It makes me think about what we do as human beings to numb or to distract from the chaos or the emotions. Ruth has a comment. Go ahead.
Okay, I hope this makes sense, but the agenda one really struck me from the perspective of a mom. I've been becoming aware the last few days just of how much I need to control, how strong my desire to control things is. And especially like around my kids, kind of feeling this like I freak out when I feel the chaos or like I can't control them, or I try to control more and then they get crazier because they can feel that. And I think my agenda with my kids is that I want to feel okay. And I think that I need them to act a certain way or do certain things, not be loud, not make mess, whatever, in order for me to feel okay. But as I become a more sovereign being, then that okayness is within me. Like I'm okay within myself and I no longer need to have that agenda. So that was impactful to me, to be more aware of like interacting with my children without an agenda, without needing them to be a certain way in order for me to feel okay. And yeah, so thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing that. And what that did for you, Ruth, is it empowered you to be a more stable, present being for your kids, not a mother that needs to control the environment and control everything around you so that you can feel safe, but to just be safe, just show up as safe. That's powerful. And that's empowering. And what a great way to teach your children through the example of that, of being a sovereign being.
Yeah, that's what I want for them. I want them to grow up and be sovereign.
So then what you got to do is teach them you don't get to control the universe. You don't get to control your external environment, and your external environment isn't controlling you, right? The internal environment is what is in control. So thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it. It reminds me of Albert Einstein, who said that the field is the governing agent of the particle. So what that means to me is that the field that's your spirituality. That is your divine nature. That's your divine, infinite, eternal intelligence. That's what's governing the particle, which is your physical body, but also the way that your external world shows up for you. So if you don't love the way that the external world is showing up for you, there's something in here that needs to be resolved so that the external world can start to support you, so that it can be in more of alignment with what you're putting out. Okay. Let's go on. I want to go back. Hopefully we'll get through all of these, but I want to go back. We're going to go to the next 4. Number 5, sovereign beings. They know the inner self. Sovereign beings listen intently to their inner GPS and they use it to navigate through life. They're accustomed to communicating with heaven through that divine power and fire of the Holy Spirit. This navigation is not influenced by the ego, but the higher self. They make choices because they are being driven by the heart and not by the head. It's about listening to that inner calling that they feel is guiding them to do something great. No one has the right to diminish that in you. And if you diminish that in someone else, then shame on you. Not shame on you. I guess I should reword that a little bit better, but I don't want to put shame on anybody. But do you see what I'm under? Do you guys understand what I'm saying when I say that you don't have the right to diminish that in someone? We've chosen to take upon ourselves veils and filters in this mortal existence, and we must learn to release the veils in order to reconnect with our divine nature. Could there be, can I just ask, could there be a more important work to do than this, than to know yourself in all ways and to have life push you to the outer edges of who you really are so that you can know yourself? I really don't think there's a more important work than that. Not even your job, your career. Number 6. I think that confidence comes on the heels of this inner knowing of self. But let's talk about inner sovereign confidence then. So sovereign beings stand firmly in their own I am, unapologetically. Who they are is not negotiable. They define these things ahead of time and they let the world adjust to them. They present this to the world and the world adjusts to meet them there. These are healthy boundaries. I call that standing up for yourself, speaking your truth, letting people know who you are and where you stand. Sovereign beings do their best to eliminate fear from their lives so that they can do the hard things with the greatest amount of confidence. They learn to overcome their great challenges in order to stand more fully in who they are as a divine being. Confidence in the presence of the Lord begins to strengthen as your inner confidence waxes strong. You know that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're exercising agency, following your own intuition, responding with action, and then taking ownership and responsibility for it. Okay, I hate just glancing over these because these are such deep topics, but we've already discussed them on deep levels. And if you feel anything as we're going through these, again, go back to the YouTube channel and watch them. Number 7, sovereign surrender. Sovereign beings focus on what, and they let the gods worry about the how it will all turn out. Their daily actions are driven by their passion and their purpose. They have no need to run around manipulating the world through brute force or controlling other people. Their actions are governed by an inner drive. Surrender means that you open yourself up and allow the Lord to work with you and through you, through what you believe and what you do know from experience with godly mysteries. You seek your guidance, approval, affirmation, affection, checks and balances. You seek those things from heaven and not from humans. In this divine validation, you come to know your true self. Wow, love that. All right, the last one in this section is number 8, honor agency. Sovereign beings choose actively and they don't wait to be acted upon. They recognize that they are being governed by their own agency. You get to choose because you're in charge and you are creating the kind of life that you're creating based on what's going on within. No one tells them what to do, not even God. They act in alignment with what the inner higher self wants. They don't need advice or direction from people outside of themselves. And if they get it, they compare it against the integrity of where their own soul is leading them. This is kind of a next level, I would say a pretty advanced version of this step of honoring agency, because most people when we first start out in our spiritual journeys and our spiritual connection with God, often we think that God is telling us what to do and that we're just being obedient followers. But the next level to that is realizing that God is not raising up puppets. He doesn't want a bunch of puppets. He wants autonomous beings like himself that are interdependent, not codependent, not even to him. And so I do believe that this is kind of an advanced step, but I think it's an important step nonetheless for us to ponder and consider that when we lean on God and ask God to tell us what the steps are, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at some point in your spiritual progression, God's going to want to, just like a mother teaching a child to walk, at some point, that mother's going to not want to be bent over clinging to the fingertips. At some point, the mother's going to want to let go and let the child walk beside them. Every choice a sovereign being makes is the right choice because it comes from their beingness. It is in alignment with the mind and will of God. Their choices are made out of self-love and not selfishness. Again, that's a pretty advanced concept, but when you can start pondering on that and aligning more and more with that, it's incredibly empowering. Okay, so that was the next 4. Does anybody have any thoughts or opinions or ideas? I'm going to stop the screen share here. Anything come out or come to the surface?
I have something.
Yeah, go for it.
So the things that stuck out to me in that section was the know thyself and the surrender, sovereign surrender. And every time that I've tried to gain knowledge, God has invited me to go within and to learn. And so I've asked my own heart, I've asked God, okay, what are my gifts? What are my talents? What's my purpose? You know, those types of things, and not to focus on other people and what they can give to me, or and not to focus on to how to fix other people, right? And because I want to be a fixer, I want to heal everybody, I want to heal the world, right? And he's like, the first person you need to start with, and just not just start, but master to heal, is yourself, Lisa. And I'm like, okay, so that's the first thing. And I think that it's a seasonal thing. I think that sometimes we are on fire with all of the different tools out there to heal ourselves, like Dressing Your Truth and human design and all these different tools to know thyself. And then sometimes I feel like, okay, I can just be now, you know, and that's hard for me to just be, and to just be still and have peace, right? And so it's seasons, I think, that we each go through. And then number 2, the surrender. I don't know, it just resonated with me that is the thing that he's been asking me more and more to do this year, is to let go of control, like Ruth talked about, and to just what I feel is the best way for me to have joy is to just not have any expectation and let go of control and expectation, and then I always seem to have joy. And that's what I'm being invited to do, and that's rather hard to do. Let go of agendas, let go of control, because like you say, Janet, like, you want to have control and agendas so you can feel safe, so that no matter what happens around you, no matter what person comes into your life and says this or that or does this and that you'll be in control and you're going to keep yourself safe. And that's not the best way to live. That's not the most ideal sovereign way to live. And
it's a symptom that you're not connected to the inner higher self,
right?
Because if you were really connected to your inner higher self, there is no threat to you. Nothing could possibly threaten the infinite. Exactly. So the infinite can't die. It can't run out of time. Nothing can be taken from it. It is everything. And so when you are connected to that part of yourself, you just are, like you said, you just are. You can just maneuver through life and just be. It is what it is. And I'm okay. What do I have to worry about? Nothing. So if you are worried about things and stressed about things, it's a good indicator to go, oh, whoops, I've disconnected from my eternal being. I need to go back in and reconnect again. And we all do it. And it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a symptom. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It made me think when you were talking, Lisa, it made me think about how, letting go of expectations, not really needing to fix people or control people or run to people when you need answers, right? Or to feel safe, right? To provide that environment for you externally. But at the same time, we do need people. We were designed with the desire to share ourselves with others and to be seen and to be heard and to be validated and to feel beautiful and special and like we have something to give. And so there does need to be connection for sure, but not codependent connection where we're trying to suck the life out of somebody to get what we need, right? All right. Thank you for sharing that. Let's if there's no more, I'm going to go back to screen share. And we'll do the next 4. We're going through these really fast. Oh,
hey,
go
real
ahead.
quick, can I share just the thought that you guys inspired?
Yes.
And it's about that last one that you were talking about, the honoring agency. And what came to mind is the promise that we are joint heirs with Christ. And as joint heirs with Christ, that gives us joint stewardship in the kingdom. And so when we have joint stewardship in the kingdom, that's not a kingdom of, like you said, yes men or women. That's a kingdom of doers and movers and shakers and world builders. And, so as I think about that, as we work interdependently with each other, that's what brings heaven down, right? As we step into that power of who we are, and especially who we are with him, because he is with us, then we can literally do the impossible. That's the faith that moves mountains.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Nick. It reminds me, when you say that, it reminded me of something that I heard you say, which was to put your inner kingdom in order. And that has to do with, connecting with the divine, connecting with God, realizing that we are gods with a little g, and putting those things in order is very empowering. Okay, let's go on to the last 4. I hate running through these so quickly, but this is a good discussion. Okay, sovereign autonomy. Sovereign beings do not seek to manage other people. They seek for the autonomy, freedom, and free will of all beings, including their own. Sovereign beings also don't allow others to micromanage them. They move about unapologetically. They do not place unhealthy expectations on others and then shower them with guilt if they don't meet those standards. They are completely devoid of falsely judging other people's hearts. Why? Because they're not worried about the external world. They're worried about what's going on, not even worried, but they're focused on what's going on the inner world, their inner kingdom, putting those things in order first. Then what you can do is then you can go out into the world, seek for connection with others, and that connection can be meaningful and supportive and wonderful and less stressful and less filled with suffering. Number 10, sovereign wholeness. Sovereign beings know what their innate physical, mental, spiritual needs are, and they seek to satisfy those needs rather than wait for someone else to do it. They are fiercely focused on making sure that those needs get met so that they can be the best version of themselves. We call this self-care. When we get depleted, and we all do it, when we get depleted, sovereign beings will know that it's time to recharge and refill and replenish. And so as a sovereign being, that's what you do. You go do it. You go fill the well within. You put your kingdom, your internal kingdom in order, and you it's like self-soothing, right? You learn self-love, the principles of self-love, so that you can operate in self-care and then be the best version of yourself for other people. Are we perfect at this? No, we aren't. And don't beat yourself up over it if you're not. Just have some awareness about it and then see what you can do. You know, on the flip side, their desires, their wants and needs do not complete them. They recognize that they are always whole and complete no matter what. They have learned to overcome the feelings of desire, jealousy, ownership, exclusivity, lust, want, lack, and insecurity. Their experiences do not equal their identity. I love this one. This was actually one of my favorite classes ever, and we did dive deep into that. You can go look it up. Number 11, godly identity. Sovereign beings align with divine intelligence. They know that intellectual knowledge and intelligence are two different things. So having data swirling around in your brain is awesome. If you've read a lot of books, that's great. Good for you. But that's very different than having divine intelligence flowing through you. They're two different things. So you can develop both of those things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but know that there's a difference. Knowledge comes from thinking and analyzing and reasoning, and is an important aspect of this mortality. It is reasoned, analyzed, and processed by the human mind. Divine intelligence is spiritual knowing. It comes from God through the channel of your higher self. It is known. It is experienced. It just is. It is processed by spiritual means. And you know what I've noticed for me is that I feel more in connection with divine intelligence when I'm centered, when I'm tapped into my I am. When you do that, you stop identifying with the world, your mind, other people, and the authoritarian voices, and you begin identifying with the higher being that you truly are. That still, clear inner voice that is you, that is your I am. At some point, you will begin to stop thinking that what your brain or other people's brains are doing has anything to do with you, because it doesn't. Man, I wish I could talk for days about this concept and this principle, the God self, the godly identity that is who we are. There is nothing more empowering than to learn how to tap into that. Number 12, godly oneness. This is something that I feel like I'm always learning. And there's always new layers and new levels that come up in this kind of learning, but this is one of my favorite topics as well. A person who is spiritually sovereign might sometimes find it difficult to discern the difference between the voice of God and their own inner voice, because there is a level of oneness there that molds the two into one. It's almost as if God's voice is your voice and vice versa. They sound the same because they are so interconnected. You feel as if God has moved into your soul and that you have moved into the soul of the divine, and you occupy the same space together. We call that the indwelling of Christ or God. I know there are people on here that have had these experiences. Would love for you to ponder and think about maybe whether or not you could share some of those experiences with us as we talk about godly oneness. But this oneness of heart and mind allows a sovereign person to freely and openly love all beings in a godly way without the need for it to be reciprocated. They begin to recognize that they are all the love that they think they need, and that yoking to the divine keeps them connected to that steady flow of love that feeds their soul. A sovereign being will come to know the character of Jesus Christ and fundamentally return to that which they know over and over and over for reassurance. Sometimes questions like, "What if I'm wrong?" will come up, and you'll be required to return to what you know. You will be required to return to what you know about the character of God and stand in the confidence of what you do know. Oh gosh, there's a couple of additional steps here. I feel like we should pause there. Let me just check. People are saying amen. Someone said I have to go, but thank you for the discussion today. Thanks for being here. If you had to leave, sorry you had to leave early, but catch the replay. Anybody want to share thoughts or perspectives around these last four, not the last four, but these last four principles that we just touched on? Did anything come up for you? Are you still working on these things? Do you have questions or comments?
I know a lot of things resonated with me. I tend to want to fix people, and I'm not even fixed myself, obviously.
Yeah, it
And
starts
I
there.
have, yes, I really have to think about, okay, listen, don't give advice unless you're asked. Just listen, because sometimes people want to pour their heart and soul out to me. That doesn't mean they really want to hear advice.
Yeah,
Just want.
I think that people people benefit more from their own internal advice. And if you have something to share and God tells you to share it, then by all means you should share it. But sometimes it's just a matter of asking them questions to take them back into their own inner authority and help them to get that pertinent advice from themselves, from the God within them. Okay. Did you have something more, Karen, to share?
Oh, while ago when you were talking about the gut relating to family and hips and spine, I thought, oh my gosh, that's everything that I have issues with. In fact, it was the 26th I had of last month, so it's been almost a month, but I'm really still recovering from having cancer surgery, from having a cancerous tumor removed from my gut. So, but they got it all. It's not in my lymph nodes. It's not in my other organs.
Yay.
But yes, it was wonderful. But it does seem that the medical professions, they want to keep you as a continuous patient,
Yeah, they want to manage your sickness for you. Now, so cancer has to do with profoundly intense emotion and lots of it. So if emotion has been, comes into the body and there's no outlet and it's not resolved and it just keeps accumulating and accumulating, especially if it's intense emotion, like maybe anger or bitterness or something that's really intense. Those can create tumors in the body. But you know what? Just like the tumor was created, it can also be undone and resolved. So that's why I love this healing work that we do. Nick says, John 14:23, Jesus answered and said unto them, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. Yeah, that's that oneness, that indwelling. That's really profound, isn't it? Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's go back. We have just a couple more of these. I didn't realize that there was more than 12. Let's do 13. Taking the next right step. In sovereignty, we begin to recognize that we don't necessarily need the entire big picture in order to operate. A sovereign being knows how to take the next right step in front of them. They're willing to risk their chances of stepping out of social norms in order to step into alignment with the greater good on their behalf. They are not puffed up in knowingness or absolutes. They are open to being wrong, changing direction, regrouping, and repenting if need be. There is an element of humility that guides them through the uncertainty of it all. So taking the next right step might not mean that you're perfect, that you're operating perfect in all things, and that you're not making mistakes. It's risky. It's risky to be aligned with God with Christ. Because oftentimes what we find is that as we develop that relationship with the Lord and we start receiving that guidance and we start acting more in alignment with the steps that God would take within us, sometimes the Lord will guide you out of boxes and out of boats and out of social norms and out of practices and traditions and procedures that are familiar to the rest of the world, but maybe you're being guided to go against that that grain or against the current. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the risk that you take when you seek the divine presence in your life and when you seek to act in alignment with what you're getting. It's risky because people often don't like that. They don't like it when people are different from them. So taking the next right step, it's bold, but in many cases, if you truly want to ascend and progress in your covenant relationship with the Lord, that step has to be there. You have to be willing to take risks. Number 14, taking inventory. Sovereign beings take inventory and are highly self-aware. They ask questions like, what do I know? What do I believe? How do I know these things? What is the source? What are the fruits? What are the confirmations? Where am I now? And what do I need to do today? These inventories are vital. You'll be opposed, confronted, attacked, accused, blamed, possibly. Maybe that's not a definite thing, but there's a possibility for that. It's risky. You'll need to have a process in place to ground, center, and prepare for these times so that you can come back to center and stand unapologetic in your I am. You'll need to do a gut check. And you can read through some of those things, but doing a gut check is vital, and come back and always do a gut check. Am I acting in alignment with my journey, my path, my next right steps, my intuition, my connection with God, and my own agency? You get to choose. At some point, we must recognize that our own steps on our own path are set forth in our own plan and cannot be governed or granted by anyone but God or our higher selves. God is the authority over what my steps will look like in the plan of salvation for his children. In doing this inventory, we can ask ourselves, where do I stand with me? Where do I stand with God? As we walk this treacherous walk with God in most things, we think it's scary. It's really not. In most things that we think we know, there are always parts that we don't know, parts that we don't need to know, and parts that we might not want to know. There's always going to be a risk. Lucifer can always get his foot in the door. Our biggest fear is the risk of, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm deceived? What if I screw up? What if I can't do what I'm asked to do? I would even add to that, what if I lose things? What if something is taken from me? The solution is to look at things objectively and be careful how you judge. Open your mind and open your heart. Take the baby steps. Everyone should feel safe enough to ask questions. Everyone should feel safe enough to be asked questions. Okay, so this last section is about sovereignty and relationships. I'm not going to go into this because this will be one of our next classes coming up. So we're going to scroll past that. I wanted to just touch lightly. This is kind of the ending of this handout, but I wanted to touch lightly on the recipe for suffering, because we did talk a lot about principles of sovereignty. And when you step in alignment with some of these principles of sovereignty, you might experience what you would perceive as suffering. And so if you know the recipe for suffering, it might be helpful to be able to reverse engineer that and reduce your need to suffer. So do any or all of these things, and you will most assuredly experience the discomfort and the pain of human suffering. Suffering is the condition that happens inside of our minds and our bodies the moment that we misalign with divine perspective. There's a typo there. Wow. Okay, so number 1, Setting unhealthy expectations for situations and people. So if you have a condition, you've set it up in your mind that you think a relationship or a setting or an environment is supposed to look like XYZ, and it doesn't happen that way and it doesn't unfold that way. If you're clinging to that unhealthy expectation, you're going to suffer. This is a recipe. So if you know the recipe, then you also know I don't have to bake these cookies, right? Okay, number 2, clinging to things and people that you are afraid of losing. Often as mothers, we do this with our children. If we're afraid that we're going to lose the connection or the bond or the love of our children, sometimes we will do crazy things like control and manipulate their environment in order for them to love us, in order for them to stay ours. Right? Okay. So how do we let go and let God? I'll share with you one thing that happened to me when I was a young mom, like way back when I was first having children. I remember it was not long after giving birth to one of them, and I was holding this sweet, precious little baby in my arms and looking into his eyes and thinking, just feeling this overwhelming sense of love for this baby and thinking, oh, if anything ever happened to this baby, I would just be totally devastated. And then I heard the Lord say, would you give this child back to me if I asked you to? And I had to sit there in the pain and in the suffering of that for a little bit and go, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. I mean, I guess if God took that child from me, I would have to. But he asked the question, would you give this child back to me if I asked you to? And what I learned from that, I actually did say yes. Yes, Lord, this is your child, not mine. What I thought about that in hindsight is we don't necessarily have to walk away from our children or our loving relationships or anyone that we love for that matter in order to not suffer. Sometimes we can just hand them over to God without the need to control or fix, like we've talked about. So letting go of those unhealthy connections and attachments, but still allowing for love to freely flow is very liberating and freeing. Okay, let's go back to the recipe. Number 3, trying to do enough so that you may someday be enough. I see this happen a lot in religious culture. I used to do it. I used to sit in Relief Society waiting for the clipboard to be passed around so I could sign my name on every piece of paper, thinking that if I do enough of these things and prove my devotion to the church and to the people and to God, that someday God would think highly of me. And I've since learned that is a recipe for suffering. So it's not about the doing. It's about remembering your being and allowing the being of you to do the doing, to govern the doing. So trying to do enough so that you'll someday be enough, reverse that. Trying to be so that that being can govern the doing. Number 4, disconnecting from your higher self, from God, from truth, and from others. Did you know that those 4 main disconnects are at the root of every disease, every illness, every problem, every symptom, every pain in your body? There's some kind of a disconnect that has happened and it needs to be resolved. How do we resolve it? We return it to love. When you return those elements inside of you that are trying to get your attention back to love, you'll reconnect with your higher self, with God, with truth, and with others. But if there are these disconnects, it'll create a lack of inner peace where fear exists and God is absent. It's a recipe for suffering. If you want to suffer, do that. Number 5, the fear of impermanence or change. A lot of us go through the fear of things being different. We don't want to be seen as different. We don't want to show up in the world as different from everybody else because we don't want to go through shaming and shunning and shushing and all the things. The fear of impermanence or change. So if you want to suffer, keep fearing those things. If you want less suffering, embrace change. Embrace the fact that in this low density world, most things here are temporary. Most everything that you see in material, physical matter is temporary. But the reality also is that they're also eternal, because matter, material, is eternal. It's constantly being cycled and recycled and upcycled. Number 6, the fear of death and loss. If you want to suffer, be afraid of dying. Be afraid of losing something. Cling to things. That's a recipe for suffering. So if you want less suffering in your life, be willing to let go of these things and reverse engineer them in your life. And you'll find that there will be I do believe that as human beings, we can get to a place where there literally is no suffering because we've taken care of these 6 steps. All right. Okay. Any thoughts, any feelings, any ideas pop up, any experiences that you might want to share? I'll give you just a minute to ponder and reflect on some of that. If not sharing openly, you're more than welcome to journal that out. What are some of the things that you gained this year as we covered these 14 principles of sovereignty and the recipe for suffering? How has this helped you in your life? How has it blessed you? How has it empowered you? Think about those things, and if you're willing to share, I would love to hear. While you guys are thinking and pondering on that, I'm going to grab really quickly what the topic for 2024 is, and I will prepare to share that with you. I'm really excited about it. Okay, you guys are super quiet today. Okay, so if there is not, I'll give you a couple more seconds. If there's not any sharing, then we will move forward. If you think of something, drop it into the chat box or just unmute your mic and interrupt me, because that's fine too. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this topic, as you well know, we talked about this at the beginning of the class, but 2020 was quantum healing. 2021 was abundance and manifesting. 2022 was spiritual awakening. 2023 was spiritual sovereignty. Can anyone take a guess as to what we have been leading up to, unbeknownst to me until I just learned 8 months ago? What do you feel like this is leading us to? Any guesses? What would be the most important thing you would want to talk about in the year 2024? Drop it into the chat. Just give me some guesses. Some of you guys already know. Okay. You guys are very quiet today. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I'm gonna share with you what the topic is. This came to me about 8 or 9 months ago, and the Lord said, the topic that I want you to focus on is of utmost importance, and it's what you've been building up to up until this point. And I didn't even know that. I just would pick topics based on what popped into my mind at the beginning of each year, and we would go with those subjects. This subject is dear and tender and sacred to me, and I think that it really matters. I think we live in a world where there is a lot of chaos, and there are a lot of disconnects, and there is a lot of hopelessness, and there is a lot of fear, and there is a lot of suffering. And there's also a lot of transition going on, taking place. And I am a firm believer that suffering is a choice. That as we transition and up level, and as the earth continues to change and people on it continue to change and transform, you can go into suffering if that's meaningful for you, or you can opt to up level. So the topic and the subject that has come to me over this past year and a half, actually, it's been brewing as I've been experiencing it and walking this walk, is the path of becoming holy, the path of becoming a holy divine being, the path of becoming God's elect on the earth. It doesn't mean that you're more special. It just means that you're willing to let go of the finger grips where God has been walking you, and you're willing to walk alongside and have the indwelling of God within you as you walk your walk. So this path of becoming holy is going to be, yes. Wow, I'm super excited for 2024 theme in this class on the path of becoming God's elect. Yes. The truth is, we all are God's elect. The question is, are you willing to open your eyes to that truth and to that fact? Ascended masters. Yeah, Loretta says. So another aspect of becoming holy is going to be the divine identity of Jesus Christ and why that matters. Why does it matter that we understand and know the divine identity of Jesus Christ? Who did he teach himself to be? One of the things that Christ says in Holy Writ is that the kingdom of God is within you. If we are to bring the kingdom of God to the earth, which in my mind, I would call that a Zion state, a celestial estate. If we're to do that and accomplish that and rise to that level and step out of the suffering and step out of the turbulence, we need to know the divine identity of Jesus Christ. We need to know why that matters to us personally, because he is the exemplar of our own divine identity. He showed the way to tap into that and to access it and why that matters. So I believe that Christ's life was a perfect pattern for those things. Anybody have anything to share around the divine identity of Christ? Are you excited about this topic? I know Lisa is. I know Loretta is. Yes. In talking about the ascended masters, I want to touch on that just a little bit. Katie says yes. Good. I had an opportunity to go to California this last, a couple months ago. Karen says it sounds very exciting. Yeah. And I was with a friend who has spent her lifetime studying the ascended masters, the Krishna and some of the others. And I'm not good with all of the names of them yet, but I have been studying some of their teachings and philosophies. And at one point in my trip there to visit some of these sacred sites, we went to a lake shrine with a temple where people could go and meditate and commune with these ascended masters. And as I sat up on the front row and I was sitting there in meditation, and there's these 6 or 7 different pictures of some of these ascended masters that people have studied the lives of. And right smack dab in the center is Jesus. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. That was the one guy up at this podium that I did recognize. And so I went into meditation, and something I heard the Lord say to me was, let me introduce you to my brothers. And I thought that was profound. I thought, well, I can't learn about Buddha, and I can't learn about some of these other Yoganandas and masters of other philosophies, because that's not my faith. But I found it very interesting that Christ said, let me introduce you to my brothers. Lisa says, I feel the world is hungry to learn this topic more than ever. I would agree. I think the world is hungry to learn this topic more than ever. I think that when we start to understand Christ's identity and why that matters, we begin to pursue, how did he do what he did? How did he do the things that he did? Because he didn't come here to do them for us. He came here to show us there's a way. This is the way, and you can do it too. All the things you see me do and that you saw me do, you can too, because you're just like me. So I'm very excited about this topic. I don't know how it's going to unfold. I'm probably going to have a lot of interviews of people that I love and respect who have spent a lifetime studying these kinds of principles. And so be excited. If you would like to be someone interviewed on some of the topics that we'll be exploring and discovering around the identity of Christ and becoming holy, a holy being, and walking in the presence of God, then reach out to me and let me know. All right, that's it. We went over on time. Sorry to keep you a little bit later. Those of you who are going to jump over to the members area of the website, greatlifegreaterimpact.com, we're going to be doing a healing circle today around relieving stress and anxiety. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Stress and anxiety, learning how to surrender and let go. That will be in less than in about a half an hour. We'll meet over there. If you are not a member of that website, I invite you to go over and take part in the members area. There's a whole database of previous classes and videos that we've done from years previous that no one has access to. Maybe 4 people have watched some of these videos over the course of, since 2020. So they're videos that have been in my vault for a really long time, but I haven't put them up on YouTube. They're in the members area for people to enjoy. So if you would like to have access to some of those previous classes that we've done on abundance, spiritual awakening, quantum healing, then jump on over to that website and you can access it there. I will type the links into the description of this video once it posts to YouTube. And I think that's it. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for the participation. Thank you for being so awesome and doing your inner work. And it looks like we have one last comment. Do you have something, Karen?
Oh, I just wondered, is it cost to be a member?
Yeah, there is a small monthly fee to be a member, but the benefit that you get from that is every single week, every single Tuesday, I do live healing sessions with the group of people that show up. Usually it's a pretty small group. So it's almost like getting one-on-one mentoring. You're going to get a healing session live every single Tuesday. So you add that up and there's tons of value in that, just that alone, not to mention that you have a huge database of some of the previous classes and lessons and things that we've taught in the past. I'll be teaching concepts on quantum healing and the laws of health and some of those things over in the members area as well for you guys to access. It's just, there's so much content there. It's hard to get it all into these free classes. Yeah. So I take you over there.
That sounds fantastic. I need that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great option because it allows you to come close to one-on-one private mentoring with me at a fraction of the price tag. Some people want that intimate one-on-one coaching, but some people can't afford that. And so this is an option where you can just you can also pay as you go. So, all right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. And we'll see you again next week. Bye. Bye.